November 22nd. It is 3 p.m. And I'd like to acknowledge that we are coming to you from the Shillelagh Nation territory. Are there any conflicts of interest on our agenda today? All right, seeing none, I'd look for a motion to adopt the agenda as presented. Moved and seconded, all in favor? Thank you. And moving on to item number 1. This is the Sechelt Public Works Parks Operations Center Design Build Contract. I look for a motion to receive the report. Moved, seconded, all in favor? Thank you. And Director of Engineering and Operations, Mr. Dillon, over to you.
Yes, Your Worship, I think the report speaks for itself. There was quite a large amount of time that had elapsed between when we received the initial proposal and supply chains being what they are, the COVID situation being what it is. It was reasonable to ask the contractor for a revised price. Prior to negotiating an actual contract, the request for proposals that was put out initially that was a basis of award or selection of the design builder Keris wouldn't have served the purpose for an actual design build contract. So we've been working with Colliers on negotiating a contract for actual construction. So this will cover the design of the new building and move into construction. So this is the document we need to start getting shovels in the ground.
All right, Council, any questions? Councillor Toth.
Thank you. 2 questions, I suppose. I see in the document that the targeted completion date is November 30th, 2022 for substantial completion, which is good, just a little over a year away. I haven't had a chance to do a really deep read on this document, but are there provisions in there to hold them to that timeline, or do we have any recourse if things start to slip? Is my first question.
Yeah, the CCDC documents have clauses in there for liquidated damages for project delays. We have to see if those are reasonable delays or if they're initiated through some scope change. I don't see that. I think with this contract process, we had Colliers on as our expert early on, and then I come with some experience in CCDC contracts. So there was a lot of back and forth discussion, and what I told the contractors, like, don't be overly ambitious, be realistic, so we don't have to change this date ever. So what they have now is a fairly realistic and achievable date, barring any unforeseen condition. But lately it's been archaeological that's been the issue, and we already have an archaeology firm lined up for this work. So we're doing it at the front end of the project. We have a service agreement in place for the offsite civil works. So there's a company, KM Civil, out of Abbotsford, who's doing our design work for that. So we have all the pieces in place. We actually had our public works and parks manager do a high-level design review already of the conceptual design to tweak it. No major changes there, just reconfiguring benches and where they want doors, and nothing earth-shattering there that really impacted the price. So we've done a lot of this work up front to reduce risk and give the contractor more, or the design builder, sorry, more certainty going into this. So yeah, I'm hopeful that we actually get done before that date, but I think we've given them enough time to get this done.
Councillor Toth, one more question.
Yep, and Director Dillon, you sort of led into it there with your last couple sentences, in that we saw sort of an overall concept when we did the original award to Keris Construction. Is that it's now between staff and Keris and Collier? Is there any last chance for council to see what's getting built before it gets built?
Well, we do actually have in Collier's service agreement that they would come back to council and provide presentations to council at key points in the project. And so the next point I told them is when we're done preliminary design and just about to get into detail, that they would come back to council and present what the preliminary design looks at that point. So yes, we are planning on doing that. And we also additionally provide those weekly, I guess not weekly, but after with every regular council meeting. So the next one is going to be in October, these capital project updates. And the operations center is one of the ones we talked about in those capital project updates. So yes.
Okay, thank you. I know we had spoken previously about the, rubber membrane versus torch on versus metal roofing and things like that. So it'd be nice to see where we're headed with this.
Thank you. Councillor Scott.
Is a 20% increase in 1 year realistic? I mean, maybe Councillor Lamb can chime in as to his thoughts on that too, but I'll start with you, Director.
Yes, to address Councillor Scott's question through your worship. So from my perspective, it did seem reasonable. I mean, we all know that inflation has gone up 4 to 5% on the whole economy. But to make it independent and have another third party look at that, I asked Colliers to prepare a memo for me to see if what they're seeing with the cost increases on this project were typical of other projects they're dealing with. They deal with a lot of other types of projects off coast, and their findings were that it was reasonable given the circumstances that it would increase that much.
Councillor Lamb, did you want to weigh in on that?
You bet. Yeah, you know what? So I priced a building January 2021. And so I just had, and I've had it priced twice since then. And then I went back to my builder, to the supplier, and I said, these prices are ridiculous. And so he went back to his supplier and he gave me the breakdown. And so if there's any steel involved in this, it's between anything steel is a minimum 70 to 80% increase in price since January. And it depends on the steel. Some of it can be 100%. And it's a stupid thing, but like, so a building that I was looking at was 11,250 square feet. We moved it down to 8,500 and the price is exactly the same. And that was in 6 months. And then the price has gone up since June. So that's where the price of building materials are, But so this is for
Director Dillon? Mm-hmm.
Director Dillon, yeah. So this is a design build. So this will be a fixed price then. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's a fixed price, stipulated cost, and once we sign, they're held to that unless we, say add an extra garage bay or something, which we're not going to do. So it should be according to that. And
I've dealt with this company quite a bit, and they give you a price and they'll finish the work. So I'm very comfortable with this.
Yeah, and I think it was also, I think it should, give the contractors some assurances too that they put in a fair price. And usually it's typically not reasonable to ask contractors to hold their price for more than 6 months. Some might even say more than 2 months is too long, right? So, and a lot has happened in the last year.
You go into the building supplies now, they give you a quote and it's good until you walk out the door.
Well, and to add to that, it extends beyond just the material costs. It's also labor. So I would imagine that whatever subcontractors that were lined up a year ago would have likely found work on other projects. So then they have to go back out to the market and find new subcontractors to replace those ones that they had lined up before. And fortunately, I also have some background in the private sector building buildings as well, so I know how this works, and concur with a lot of Councillor Lamb's observations. So hope that answers the question.
Right, Councillor Lamb, did you have another question?
No, I'm good. That was just it. Design build. We're good. Yeah.
All right, seeing no further questions, there is a recommendation that was put forward on page 2. What would council like to do? Councillor Toth.
I will move recommendation 2, that the design build agreement for the Sechelt Public Works Parks Operations Center project with Caris Construction Limited in the amount of $3,016,397 plus GST be approved. Further, that the mayor and corporate officer be authorized to execute the agreement.
Is there a seconder? Seconded. All those in favor? Thank you. I have to say, it's nice to see this moving forward. Thank you for the report. Moving on to item 3.2. This is tree harvest of airport lands. Motion to receive the report. Moved and seconded. All in favor? Thank you. And Director of Financial Services, Mr. Douglas.
Thank you, Your Worship. So the district, once we completed the runway extension at the airport, it was brought to our attention that we have some dangerous trees on the one end of the runway, and that became apparent that we needed to deal with them, and so we turned to the Sunshine Coast Community Forest to give us some advice on how to move forward. And they came up with a plan for logging the dangerous trees, and including some timber that we could take out in an expansion area that if we wanted to expand. And the report, which is attached to my report, is quite in depth, and basically at the end of the day, we would have about $280,000 that we would see as revenue from the harvesting, and the intention is that would be put into the airport reserve for future use. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Toth.
Thank you. I was really hoping that Warren was going to make it so that I could ask a couple of questions of him as the sort of resident expert when it comes to trees, but I'm hoping that somebody can give me the answer. Do we have a plan for topping or managing the trees within the riparian area of, I think it's Harmon Creek? I was just up there earlier today, and I just can't remember the name of the creek, but given that we've got trees in a riparian area between this block AP2 and the airport, are we going to be doing any work in the riparian area as well?
That's at the other end of the runway?
That would be at the end closest to the road coming up.
That's right. That's between sort of Field Road and the end of the runway.
Yeah, it's Husden Creek is what it is, I believe. I know in conversation with Warren Hansen prior to all of this, he's very aware of the riparian zone and what has to be done there, and would, as part of this, make sure that he would have somebody come in and make sure that we're following all the protocols that need to be followed.
Yeah, he would be obligated to follow the proper protocols around the creeks, for sure.
Yeah, Councillor Toth.
Yeah, it's just a further comment on that. In that, AP2. I noticed that the design of AP2 does stay clear of the creek on the southwesternmost portion of the block, so that's not a problem. It would seemed to be to me to be a waste to cut down all the trees in AP2, and then we have trees within the riparian setback on the other side of the road that are now in the way. So yeah, if we're topping those trees, great. I don't see anything in here specifically about it. That was all.
Okay, so that's a conversation. Potentially we could get some more information from Warren around those particulars. Okay, Councillor Lamb.
Is AP2, is that part of the airport lands or is that private lands?
Mr. Douglas, are you? I believe it's part of the airport lands.
I believe it, yeah, but we wouldn't be cutting down trees that were not on under our control. So these trees have been identified as being in our control.
Yeah, no, it just, you know, I have a little bit of familiarity with that region, and I was just, so I'm comfortable. I'm comfortable with what we're doing here. Yeah.
Okay, Councillor Toth.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that I do have the SCRD GIS system loaded right now, and yeah, that everything here is included in the same parcel that the airport runway and the airport facilities themselves sit on. It was news to me that we had land on the east side of the road as well. It's just never anything I've looked at before. So I don't see any other hands.
Nope.
So I'm willing to move some recommendations. I do have a fourth recommendation to add because I've got concerns that we harvest AP2 and we don't do anything with the land, and it turns into either a homeless camp or a garbage dump or a broom and blackberry forest. So I am going to move a recommendation here that we also include some silviculture funds for replanting that area. We'll have to harvest it again in 20 or 30 years, but that's 20 or 30 years down the road. So I'd like to move recommendation 2, that council approve moving forward with the harvest of trees on the Sechelt Airport lands to address air traffic safety and expansion. Recommendation 3, that the Sunshine Coast Community Forest be appointed to manage the harvest of trees on the Sechelt Airport lands. And a fourth recommendation, that staff coordinate with the Sunshine Coast Community Forest to ensure that sufficient harvesting proceeds be held in reserve to accommodate replanting and silviculture costs for AP2 once harvesting is complete, and in the absence of any other development opportunity that may arise.
Seconded. Okay, any comments or questions? Councillor Lamb.
Yeah, you said if another development opportunity arose, we would not replant. Is that correct?
That is the wording I left in the motion. You know, we're going to clear 3.4 hectares right on the east side of Field Road that has access to at least power. I don't know if there's any other utilities there. I'd hate for us to commit to doing the silviculture and then somebody comes up and goes, hey, you've cleared this chunk of land. You know, I'd like to put in a proposal to lease it from you for storage of school buses or hydro poles or whatever. So this gives us the option that if something comes along, that staff can bring it forward without planting it first and then ripping it up again.
That's perfect. Yeah, thank you.
All right, any other questions or comments? Mr. Douglas, you okay with that last recommendation? All right.
Yes.
All those in favor? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Douglas. Last item on the agenda is Sunshine Coast Regional District's request for COVID-19 Safe Restart Funds. And I'd look for motion to receive the report. Moved and seconded, all in favor? Thank you. And Mr. Douglas, over to you again.
Thank you, Your Worship. The purpose of this report is to provide information to council so that they have adequate information to consider the request from the Sunshine Coast Regional District to contribute proportionate share of $64,000 from COVID-19 Safe Restart Funds to the Sechelt Aquatic Center for a temporary fire protection system. After we received the letter, I had just held discussions with the Director of Corporate Services there, and was given further information with regards to how it becomes COVID related. And so I'm comfortable with the request from that perspective. They've had lack of revenues over during the COVID period, and the money that they would have put to it would have been from these revenues that they were lacking. And so to me, it fits within the COVID grant realm. We did further discuss the proportionate shares, and I also had a discussion with the town of Gibson, since they have approved theirs, and so it's here for the district of Sechelt to see if they would like to do the same.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Councillor McLean.
Yeah, so I know that the Sechelt pool is currently closed, and I believe that's related to this fire system that we're looking to partially fund today. So I've heard from a few people who are pretty concerned about losing access to that. I'm just wondering if there's anything else we can do to perhaps get it going faster. Maybe that's true with the SCRD directors, Councillor Toth or Mayor Seegers.
Councillor Toth, did you want to address that? And I may chime in at the end.
Sure. Yeah, ultimately the hope from staff was that they were going to be able to do this work during the annual shutdown period at the pool. They did put it out to tender, and they received no bids back. So they actually had to proceed to a direct award and direct negotiation with a supplier. The contractor that the SCRD has picked for this project, Sasco, is not based on the Sunshine Coast. So contractor availability is playing a portion of the delay in this project, as well as just having to extend the award time to facilitate a negotiation. Ultimately, the building can't open without something in place. Water restrictions are over. They didn't drain the pool this year, but it still takes a huge amount of water to restart the pool. But even if they restart the pool, they can't allow occupancy of the aquatic center until they do this temporary fire system. My understanding is they are going to continue to allow access to like the weight and fitness rooms. But yeah, they've got staff there 24 hours a day serving as fire watch on the facility until they can get something in place.
This is a fire department issue, like it's a fire safety issue. Because of the sprinkler system they're not sure it actually provides the service that it needs to provide. The fire department they've been working with the fire department to come up with basically a process that we can follow to actually even allow people into the building before this is even complete. So if the fire department was to say, no, you have to have this complete, it would even be closed longer. So it's been a real give and take on both sides to try and provide service while also providing for the safety of those using the facility. So I understand the concerns of the community, and we're doing the best we can.
Just one more thing I wanted to add in was that originally we actually looked at doing the sprinkler replacement project as just get it done, replace the sprinkler system. But we ran into that issue, as we discussed earlier, with the price of steel. And so, yeah, I'd completely forgotten about that until Councillor Lamb mentioned steel with regards to the building process earlier in the agenda. I don't remember the numbers offhand. I did have them in my council report at the time, but I want to say it was the bids that came back were like 2.5 times the estimated budget that was available for the project. And it was entirely materials related. So this at least gets the building going until hopefully the price of steel stabilizes and we can move forward with the project.
All right, any other questions or comments? Okay, so there's a recommendation on page 59. Councillor McLean,
Yeah, I'll move recommendation 2 that council approve contributing to $21,376 to the District of Sechelt, or of the District of Sechelt's COVID-19 Safe Restart funds to the SCRD for the Sechelt Aquatic Center Temporary Fire Protection System project.
and is there a seconder? Seconded? All those in favor? Thank you. All right, seeing no other items on our agenda, I look for a motion to adjourn. Moved and seconded, all in favor? Thank you.